Arrogant boxer forced a young black Jamaican woman to fight to humiliate her. Then, the unthinkable happened. Well, look what wandered in, Victoria Sterling scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain as she gestured toward the 19-year-old who had just stepped into the high-end Manhattan boxing gym. Looks like someone took a wrong turn on their way to the bargain basement gym. The rhythm of punches striking heavy bags died instantly. Dozens of eyes shifted to Keisha Campbell, clutching a faded sports bag, worn sneakers barely holding together. Her dark skin seemed to clash with the pristine whiteness of the facility, where monthly fees equaled nearly half a year's minimum wage. Victoria Sterling, women's world champion for 3 years running, was notorious not just for her devastating punches, but for her venomous tongue. At 27, she had built her career as much on viral insults as in the ring, each post on Instagram drawing millions of views. Her latest upload already passed 600,000 likes, a photo flexing in front of a mirror with the caption, "When you're born superior, you don't need to fake equality." "Sorry," Keisha murmured, double-checking the address on her cracked phone screen. "I thought this was where the youth scholarship program was." Victoria's laughter ripped through the gym like a siren meant to unsettle. "Scholarship? Sweetheart, this isn't charity. We train champions here, not social experiments." Keisha Campbell had landed in the United States only 7 months earlier, carrying the dreams of her Jamaican family who had scraped together everything they had. She worked 16-hour shifts, cleaning offices just to afford a shared room in the Bronx with 3 other women. This scholarship was her only chance to train in a real facility. "The program exists," came a firm interruption. Tom Rodriguez, seasoned trainer and gym owner, emerged from his office holding a folder, and Keisha Campbell is on the approved list. Victoria rolled her eyes with theatrical disdain. "Really, Tom? You're turning my gym into a charity ward? My sponsors will love this." "Your sponsors pay for wins, not for your approval of who gets to train," Tom shot back, but Victoria wasn't done. She sauntered toward Keisha, a smile curling more like a threat than a welcome. "You know what? Since you're so eager to train with the elite, let's see if you even belong here." The gym stilled. Everyone understood what was coming. "A sparring session," Victoria continued, savoring each word. "3 rounds. If you survive, you can stay. If not." She flicked her wrist dismissively. Keisha felt the crushing weight of every stare. She recognized the trap, a staged humiliation meant to break her spirit before she even began. But there was something unshakable in her eyes, a fire Victoria couldn't quite define. "I accept," Keisha said evenly. Victoria smirked, waiting for tears for pleading. "Are you sure? Because when I'm through with you, you'll regret dreaming so high." "I'm sure," Keisha replied, and for the first time since arriving, her lips curved into a calm smile. What Victoria Sterling didn't realize was that she was about to learn why. In Kingston's backstreets, Keisha Campbell had a name whispered with awe: Lightning. And like lightning, her true force only revealed itself when the storm broke. While Victoria was already rehearsing how to spin the coming humiliation into viral content, Tom Rodriguez watched the gleam in Keisha's eyes and felt the same chill he'd once felt when he first spotted raw greatness hidden behind ordinary struggle. Because what happened in those 3 rounds was so unexpected that even now people still wonder how a girl from the Bronx, with nothing but grit, managed to shake the foundations of a sport long controlled by the elite. Word of the so-called spar spread through the gym like wildfire, and within an hour trainers, fighters, and even a few reporters were rushing over. Victoria Sterling versus an unknown Jamaican teenager. It was the kind of spectacle cruel audiences online lived for. 3 rounds, 16-ounce gloves, Tom Rodriguez announced, hoping to soften what felt like an impending execution. "No bets, no streaming, just sparring," Victoria chuckled. "Relax, Tom, it won't even last 2. She was already filming Instagram stories for her 2 million followers. "Guys, you won't believe this. Some random girl actually challenged me. Time to teach her a lesson she'll never forget." Comments exploded instantly. "Destroy her, Victoria. Put her in her place. Show them why you're the queen." While Victoria reveled in the attention, Keisha moved silently to the locker room. Her hands were steady, as they always were before a fight, but her heart thundered with a mix of restrained anger and memories she usually kept buried. Tom followed close behind. Keisha, you don't need this. The scholarship is important, but it's not worth risking serious injury just to prove something to her. I won't get hurt, Keisha replied coolly as she tested the borrowed gloves. She's a 3-time world champion. She's got technique, power, experience, and I've got one thing she'll never have. She locked eyes with him. Hunger. The single word reverberated in the cramped room. Tom had trained fighters for decades, but rarely had he heard it spoken with such certainty. The look in her eyes reminded him of only the fiercest predators he'd ever seen inside the ropes. Why do you accept? He asked, sitting beside her. Why not just walk away? Keisha closed her eyes and let the images return. The streets of Kingston, her mother begging her to stop, the sting of fists striking clean, the whispered nickname that followed her, Lightning, because I've lived this story before, she said. People like Victoria think they can crush us with words, with disdain, with their certainty that we are beneath them. But they forget something. What's that? Tom pressed. That those of us who fight to survive don't step into the ring for sport. We fight to exist. A chill rippled through Tom. There was prophecy in her tone, as though she was already declaring how this would end. Outside, Victoria paraded for cameras, smirking as she pointed to Keisha's worn sneakers left behind. Look at those. She's probably never set foot in a real ring, probably learned to fight from YouTube. Laughter rolled through the gym, though the seasoned fighters didn't join in. They'd noticed her composure, the way she accepted the challenge without flinching. Marcus Williams, a former middleweight champion now training there, leaned to his sparring partner. Man, I don't know, I've seen that calm before. Sometimes it's the quiet ones you should fear. But Victoria, drunk on arrogance, was blind to the warnings. You know what the problem is with people from so-called third-world countries? Victoria continued, staring into her phone camera. They mistake desperation for talent. They think just because life is hard, they automatically know how to fight. At that exact moment, Keisha stepped out of the locker room, clad in plain shorts and a tank top that revealed arms surprisingly sculpted for someone supposedly untrained. Her movements were sleek, measured, like a predator poised to strike. Ready for your lesson? Victoria asked mockingly. Always, Keisha answered. What Victoria Sterling didn't know and couldn't have imagined was that Lightning Campbell had been fighting since the age of 9 on the streets of Kingston, not for medals or glory, but because survival demanded it. By 13, she was defeating boys years older than her in underground matches that paid just enough to keep her family fed another week. By 17, she was a legend in her neighborhood, not for brutality, but for a preternatural ability to anticipate attacks and strike back with blinding precision, a gift that earned her the nickname she carried like an unshakable scar. When she finally secured her visa to America, she swore she'd never enter a ring again, but promises like that crumble fast when dignity is on the line. Tom tightened her gloves, startled at what he felt. Her hands were loose, but her muscle density belonged to someone who had trained for a lifetime. Keisha, mind if I ask something? Go ahead. You really never fought before. For the first time, Keisha allowed herself a tiny smile, one almost imperceptible but heavy with secrets that could upend everything. Define fight. While Victoria kept preening for social media, 17 mocking stories already uploaded, something else was unfolding. Tom, uneasy, began studying Keisha more closely. Decades in the sport had taught him that real strength doesn't shout, and this girl's calmness defied logic. No calluses of a beginner, reflexes too sharp, composure unnatural for someone facing a world champion. Keisha, he asked, show me a few basics. What happened over the next several minutes unsettled him. She moved across the ring with a grace that seemed to float, her punches slicing into the heavy bag with surgical exactness. Tom muttered, my God, who is this girl really? Then the gym door opened. Keisha froze as a man walked in, Winston Campbell, 50 years old with scarred hands and eyes that carried decades of battles. Her uncle, who had flown from Miami the moment a cousin tipped him off about the fight. Lightning, he said, voice low but resonant. The name cracked through the gym like a gunshot. A few older fighters stiffened, as though remembering where they'd heard it before. "Uncle Winston, what are you doing here?" Keisha asked, her composure faltering. "I came to see if my niece has lost her mind," he said in a thick Jamaican accent. "I thought we agreed those days were behind you." Tom stepped forward, baffled. "You two know each other?" Winston's gaze was steady, weighing how much truth to spill. "I've known this girl since she was a child, and I promise you, Victoria Sterling has no clue what's waiting for her." On the far side of the gym, Victoria was too busy recording TikToks to notice. "Guys, check this out," she whispered to her followers. She even brought her family to watch her lose. "Cute, huh? They'll have plenty of tears to wipe later." Comments flooded in. "Victoria's going to crush her. Put her in her place. Show her what American boxing looks like." Winston watched her antics for a moment, then shook his head in disgust. "Arrogant," he muttered. "Exactly the kind lightning used to destroy." Her left fist smashed into the side of Victoria's face with a crack that echoed through the gym. Victoria stumbled back, clutching her cheek in shock. She had never been struck with such flawless precision by someone smaller. "Impossible," she whispered, but Keisha was already in motion again. What followed was less a fight than a masterclass, a display of such controlled violence that the gym fell into breathless silence. Keisha wasn't merely throwing punches. She was orchestrating them, a symphony of speed and precision where every strike was deliberate, every slip intentional, every counter perfectly timed. Victoria, desperate, tried to use her reach and mass. But it was like trying to trap lightning in her hands. For every shot she managed to land, Keisha answered with 3 sharper, cleaner blows. For every charge forward, Keisha had already seen it coming and turned it against her. "Who is this girl?" someone in the crowd shouted. Winston only smiled. "Lightning Campbell," he murmured, pride thick in his voice. The breaking point came in round 2. Victoria, already gasping for breath and her face visibly bruised, realized she'd walked straight into the worst mistake of her career. Her earlier posts mocking the fight were still circulating online, but now the tone had flipped. "The champ is getting schooled by an amateur. Where's the queen now? That Jamaican girl is destroying her." Her manager Jerry shouted frantic advice from the corner, but Victoria barely heard him over the roar of a crowd that had turned against her, cheering openly for Keisha. That's when Keisha decided to drop the mask. She closed in calmly, eyes locked on her opponent, backing up against the ropes. "Lightning was never just a nickname," she said coldly. "It was a warning." Then came a blur, the combination so fast the cell phone cameras couldn't keep up. Jab, cross, uppercut. 4 clean punches in under 2 seconds. Victoria crumpled to the canvas like a building brought down by demolition charges. The gym erupted into chaos. Cheers, screams, phones recording from every angle. Victoria tried to rise, but her legs betrayed her. For the first time in her career, the undefeated world champion lay broken at the feet of the woman she had called a social experiment. 10, Tom roared, counting her out. The knockout was official. Keisha approached slowly, calm amid the storm. "You said you wanted to teach me a lesson," she said softly, as Victoria was attended to. "I hope you learn that respect isn't bought by skin, by passport, or by bank account. It's earned." Tears welled in Victoria's eyes. Humiliation, yes, but beneath it, something dangerously close to respect. Jerry grabbed her phone. Her once arrogant stories had exploded online for all the wrong reasons. Thousands of comments tore her apart. "That's what happens when prejudice meets reality. Lightning Campbell just ended the queen." In less than an hour, Victoria had lost 100,000 followers. Sponsors were bailing. Her empire of arrogance was crumbling in real time. She looked at her phone in horror. Her final post mocking Keisha had turned into a gravestone for her career. Tom approached Keisha, who was being hoisted onto shoulders by the roaring crowd. "Lightning, why didn't you reveal who you really were from the start?" Keisha's gaze lingered on Victoria, broken and shaken. "Because sometimes people need to dig their own grave before they realize how deep it goes." Winston hugged her tightly. "You're still Lightning." Keisha shook her head. "No, uncle. Lightning was who I had to be to survive. Today I showed who I really am. Someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect, but who fights for dignity, not cruelty. The knockout video spread across every platform, tens of millions of views in days. The comments rewriting the narrative of two lives. Could a single fight really reshape not just two careers, but the way an entire community viewed privilege, prejudice, and true strength? 3 months later, the contrast was stark. Victoria Sterling, once undefeated, now lived in a cramped apartment after losing her Miami mansion. Every sponsorship deal was gone. Her downfall sealed the moment. The viral clip passed 50 million views in a single week. Victoria Sterling, getting destroyed by the woman she dismissed as an amateur, had become the most circulated meme of the year. Her arrogance transformed into a global punchline. Nike, Adidas, Gatorade, brands that once poured millions into her image now wouldn't even return a call. Jerry, her former manager, had been blunt in their last exchange. Victoria, you don't get it. It's not just the fight you lost, it's who you revealed yourself to be. No company wants to be linked with arrogance and prejudice. Meanwhile, across the country, Keisha Campbell signed her first professional contract with Golden Gloves Promotions. $2 million guaranteed for 3 fights, with a clause that could climb to $50 million if her success continued. Lightning Campbell had become more than an athlete. She was a symbol of survival and resilience. Sponsors seeking authenticity and grit lined up at her door. Under Armour launched a full campaign around her motto, "Earned, not given." In the gym office, Tom Rodriguez answered an unexpected call. "Hello, Tom. This is ESPN. We'd like to produce a documentary about how you discovered Lightning Campbell." Tom chuckled softly. "I didn't discover her. She always knew who she was. She just needed someone to respect her before the world saw what her fists could do." The gym itself had transformed. The scholarship program, once modest, was now flush with donations pouring in from across the nation. Hundreds of young fighters from disadvantaged backgrounds applied, the waiting list stretching past 500. Winston Campbell visited often, his pride unwavering. "Remember what I told you about hunger," he reminded his niece. "You prove every day that it's not where we start. It's the fire we carry that defines us." Victoria, meanwhile, stumbled through failed attempts at reinvention. She launched a YouTube channel filled with apologies, but the comments shredded her. She tried negotiating a boxing comeback, but no promoter touched her. Without endorsements, her wealth evaporated. In one desperate podcast interview, she finally admitted what the world had waited to hear. "I was wrong, completely wrong. Keisha Campbell isn't just an extraordinary fighter. She's someone I should have respected from the very beginning. My prejudice blinded me, but the internet remembers, and the clip only spawned more memes." Victoria begging forgiveness after losing everything. Keisha, when asked about it in Sports Illustrated, showed the grace that had always set her apart. "I don't hold anger toward her. Anger burns the person who carries it. I'd rather put my energy into opening doors for girls like me." Her foundation, Lightning Dreams, had already secured scholarships for 300 young women. The first training facility opened in Kingston, Jamaica, the very neighborhood where she had once fought for survival. At the opening, broadcast live, Keisha held the microphone with the same hands that had shattered a champion's ego. "This story isn't about revenge," she said. "It's about dignity. It's about proving respect comes not from privilege, but from character." The crowd erupted, but she pressed on. "Victoria Sterling gave me a gift. She underestimated me. When someone underestimates you, you can let it crush you or use it as fuel to become unstoppable." From the front row, Tom blinked back tears. In decades of training, he had never seen humiliation transformed into inspiration so elegantly. Months later, when Lightning Campbell unified the world titles with a knockout victory in the very same second round, she had crushed Victoria. Her first words in the ring weren't to thank her trainers or her family. "I want to thank everyone who tried to hold me down, who mocked me, who told me to know my place. You taught me that real strength doesn't come from privilege or birthplace. It comes from refusing to let anyone else set your limits." Watching alone from her small rented apartment, Victoria Sterling finally understood, perhaps too late, the difference between raw talent and true greatness. A person can be born with talent, but greatness is forged in the furnace of adversity. Keisha Campbell hadn't just won a match in that Manhattan gym. She had redefined what strength really means, what respect is truly built on, and above all, she had proven that the sharpest form of revenge isn't crushing your enemy, it's becoming everything they swore you could never be. And while Lightning Campbell stood beneath the global spotlight of her success, she embodied the truth that storms don't always destroy. Her success, she embodied the truth that storms don't always destroy, sometimes they cleanse and fortify. That lesson echoed for every soul who has ever been overlooked, mocked, or diminished. Never allow prejudice to set your boundaries. The greatest triumph is forcing the world to realize they were completely wrong about who you are. If this story of transformation and justice struck a chord with you, subscribe now for more stories that show how being underestimated is often the secret advantage we need to rewrite our destiny in the most spectacular way.